lovely ladies. It's Jessie Danson with Dancin' for Joy, and it has been 6 years. I have missed you so much. I'm actually so excited to be here right now. I was getting nervous as I was preparing to film today, but I have been thinking about coming back for so long, and I've missed the community here, and I'm eager to give you a life update on what's been going on for the last 6 years. The last time I posted was November of 2019, and we were living in Washington State, where we had been living our entire marriage. And that, as we all know, was very close to everything changing in 2020. So we had been outgrowing our little house that we owned with a relative there in Washington. If you had watched any of my previous videos, you know I'd had baby twins in 2017. So they were toddlers when I decided I needed to step back from YouTube. 5 little children, and just the busy blur that life was, and really wanting to just soak in the season of life, those sweet babies, those sweet little ones. So while I was doing that, we were outgrowing our little house, and in the angst of COVID, we decided to try to do something about it. We were we have always been a single income family because I've stayed home with the children while my husband worked. We couldn't afford a bigger house at all in Washington State. So we got creative and we moved to an even smaller arrangement. We decided to live in a vintage Airstream for a little while and get our house ready to sell or rent. We weren't exactly sure what direction we were gonna go, but we knew something needed to change. So we found this vintage Airstream and moved into it, parked at a relative's house, and lived in it for 6 months while my husband was getting our house just kind of freshened up and trying to make it ready to do something with it, put it on the market, put it for rent. Living in the Airstream was an adventure. It was kind of cool and quirky, and also one of the hardest things I'd ever done in my life. Tending to a family of 7 in such a tiny space was extremely challenging. And as we got close to that 6 months of living there, I was asking my husband, when are we going to move out of this? And like I said, we couldn't afford anything in Washington. We had relatives in Northwest Arkansas that suggested that this might be a nice place for us. And so we took a whirlwind trip out, had never been to Arkansas before, Arkansas wasn't even on our radar at all. So we spent a weekend here. We looked at houses. We didn't even know what town we wanted to live in. We were looking at houses in like a 3-hour radius of the general area we wanted to be. And we found a couple of houses. Our plan was to sell the house in Washington that we owned with a relative and take our share of the equity, roll that into a house that was big enough to raise our children in, with some acreage preferably, and do homesteady things, you know, have chickens, have a garden, things like that. And so we found a couple options, went home, sold the Airstream, sold the house, and we're planning to move to Northwest Arkansas. Well, things did not go quite as planned. My husband's expected employment fell through, and we did not end up purchasing a house. We ended up renting in a completely different town than we originally thought we would be in. But I think that entire series of events was really from the Lord, because everything turned out amazing. We had the best experience, and the area we ended up in was beautiful, like lakes and rivers and waterfalls and little mountains, like nothing to compete with the Cascades and the Olympics of Washington, but still some mountains to make us feel at home. And like amazing restaurants and coffee shops and family-friendly amenities, parks. It was amazing. We were so happy where we landed. We found a church that we loved and we were just having the best time. Jonathan he started out freelancing and then he got a remote job where he could work from home, which was such a dream come true. And we started making some lifestyle changes because we were out of our normal routines. We had to create all new routines where we were shopping, where we were sourcing our food. And so we started doing things that we had been wanting to do for a long time, like getting raw milk from a dairy farm or beef from a local ranch, ordering organic food from Azure Standard, and learning to make sourdough and work with ancient grains like einkorn. And so it was also adventurous, just like in our kitchen, and feeling better with putting better quality food into our bodies. Stuff that had been a desire, but like this whole life shakeup kind of made it possible for us to start doing these things we'd been wanting to do. So even though we were incredibly happy where we were, I'm looking down at my notes because I feel like there's a lot I have to share with you. I don't want to leave too much out. We had a change in our rental agreement that prompted us to move only 10 months after we had landed in Northwest Arkansas. We had relatives in Oklahoma. And so since we'd had such a great experience moving to Northwest Arkansas, we thought naively, we could live anywhere. And sure, let's have another adventure, move to Oklahoma. And we did buy a house there. It was a darling 1930s bungalow. I'd always wanted to live in an old house and it was charming and I was just in love with it until we lived there for a couple months. There were issues with the house that had not been disclosed and I was having a little bit of culture shock. I feel like Northwest Arkansas reminded me enough of where we came from in Washington, both in the culture and the scenery, that I felt so at home here. But living on the plains and just the way things were where we lived in Oklahoma, I felt completely out of place. Like, we don't belong here. And so I struggled with that. There were several things that were just like shockers to me, like our town getting hit with a tornado while my husband was out of town and I was alone with the children in the basement, stuff like that. So I told my husband, like, I was so sorry, but I don't like living here. I would like to go back to Northwest Arkansas. So he said, give it a year. If you still hate it, we can move. So we stayed a year and a half. We did end up moving back. However, while we were there, we were blessed with our 6th child, a son, and his birth was our favorite experience. My husband got to deliver him in our bedroom. We did have a midwife, but she got there after he was born. And so that was just amazing. Like, after having 5 babies already, we were confident with how things were supposed to go. So we weren't at all concerned. In fact, like, we were kind of hoping it would go that way, that my husband could deliver the baby. So that was amazing. And so yeah, we were blessed with that baby, 6 children. Now, I was having peripartum depression. I wasn't like officially diagnosed, but I'm sure that's what it was, because not only was I just struggling with not being happy living where we were, I was just so unhappy in general. Very happy with like my family, my baby, all of that, but it was a very challenging season living there with that depression I was going through. So anyway, we moved back, and different town, but same area. So we were near some very dear relatives and back in like the forests and the little mountains and waterfalls and all of that, and back to the church that we had fallen in love with when we'd lived here before. So extremely happy about that. And getting plugged into ministries again, like we were in Washington, music and children's ministries. So I don't know, probably a year and a half, close to 2 years after we got back here and settled in, I got pregnant with baby number 7. It absolutely blew my mind when I got the positive pregnancy test. I alternated between laughing hysterically and sobbing for an hour because it was such a surprise. And I don't think I'd ever really seen us having 7 children, but we were welcoming that baby. However, my body followed the pattern that it had before. Healthy pregnancy, miscarriage, healthy pregnancy, miscarriage. And this one ended in miscarriage in my first trimester. So we were sad about that. The next year, I got pregnant again, and I was so ready for it this time. I was very excited about that 7th baby, and it was a really hard pregnancy, like weird. Like I was in bed all the time. I had no energy, and we got through the first trimester, but we lost the baby in the second trimester, and that was very, very hard. I'd never miscarried that late into pregnancy before. I do feel like the Lord had prepared me for it with just signs of like what my body was doing, but it was still so deeply sad. And it was the first time we'd had miscarried far enough along to see that it was a boy and to name him and to have a burial for him. So after that, I feel like I hit rock bottom with my health. My hormones had already been crazy for years, but just my energy, my nervous system, I just felt like I was going crazy, like everything was breaking down. So I went to a doctor, and she told me, go see this specialist, go have this test done, go see that specialist, go have that test done, like troubleshooting all the things, which gave me so much hope to know, okay, I'm not going to feel terrible like this forever. It's going to get better. And it did start getting better. And simultaneously with that, our church had a prayer revival. And during that week, every sermon had something for me to revive my spirit. And I started feeling so much more like myself, which was such a relief because I had gotten to this point where I wasn't even excited about anything anymore. And so to feel like, yes, I can do things again. I can work in the children's ministry with my husband again. I can be in the choir again. I can exercise again. I can thrive again. It's been life-changing, and I'm so humbled and thankful. And part of that includes being here with you. And so yeah, this, I've been hitting like all the major life events. And I do want to say, like, in the midst of all of that, my children have just been growing beautifully. We've been homeschooling, lovely at-home lifestyle, having adventures together, and like life has been good. I'm very thankful, and we've been doing well overall. But yeah, now that I am feeling a little more energetic, a little more like myself, I wanted to touch base with you and let you know that I'm also starting another channel, and I have started a blog that goes with it. And I'd say only check it out if you're interested specifically in the topics that I'll be discussing there, which are elegant homemaking, healthful living, and mother culture. If those are not really what you're interested in, I'm just thankful you're here with me at Dancing for Joy. And I'm not sure if I'm going to continue posting videos on this channel, but if you'd like me to, it would be very helpful to know if you'd comment down below, like, what drew you here in the first place. I made videos about so many other things back in the day: thrift hauls, books, minimalism, my FabFitFun box, like all kinds of stuff. My transverse myelitis journey, having twins, homeschooling. Like there were a lot of things. So let me know which thing made you subscribe and if you'd like to see more of that here. And perhaps I'll talk to you soon. Love you, friends.